Hey, what's going on? So tonight's topic again, you guys, is mental health 101, suicide prevention. My guest for tonight is going to be Mr. Travis Dimitri. You guys know him from projects on Signal 23 TV, The Circle New York. He is an actor, media personality, and publicist, and just all around great guy. So we'll be getting on with him soon. How's everybody doing tonight? I really want y'all to stick in. Like I said, the proceeds from tonight will be going directly towards a suicide prevention charity organization of our choice. So if you want to go ahead and buy a badge, you can. The badges range from 99 cents to $1.99 and so on. What's going on there, Voice of Array? Y'all make sure y'all follow my boy Ike. He has an angelic voice. All right, let me go ahead and go live with Travis. Make sure I got all this together because I know this screen get a little tricky. Hey,
What
look at you.
up?
What's going on? Listen, it's
Look
the
at
hair for
you.
me. Look.
It's the bad hair for me.
That problem
Oh,
this
fuck.
morning, actually. I had a whole little Instagram story about it. Travis, how are you? Thank you
I'm
for finding the
I'm
first
all
badge
right.
tonight. For those of you getting started, we are doing one-on-one mental health suicide prevention tonight, you guys. Tonight is a very special topic that Travis and myself decided to talk about. All the money that comes from badges is going to be going directly to a suicide prevention organization of my choice down here in Atlanta. For those of you that don't know, I am a licensed social worker. I do deal with children who are in foster care and transition into adulthood. And one of the things I do is suicide prevention. So I can speak on this subject. I am qualified. So I
Okay.
want to put that,
I, I,
and that's very important. And
I'm
that's very
glad. I'm
important.
glad you said that. I am not. I want to make it clear that I'm speaking on my experience only, and I'm not licensed. The only thing I'm licensed to do is talk shit. Okay, you don't need to agree for that. So, all that being said, is I'm just speaking on my experience.
Well, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me about this. This is a very touchy subject, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to, just talking about mental health in general. Because in our community, I think Maya said it best on Girlfriend. She was like, Joan, girl, what are you doing? She was like, Black people don't go to therapy. They go to
Uh,
church. Or they go to
do
their
you?
mama, or their best friend, or they go to their barber, or the person
Right.
that's doing their hair. And we really need to be going to licensed professionals to try to get this done. And I know a lot of people say, well, therapy is really expensive. I know I want to sit here and talk to somebody when I can just work through these things myself. Well, it's kind of like, why would you try, if you had appendicitis, would you try to do surgery on yourself to get rid of that?
You'll be surprised. Who might?
If you had a cleft toe, would you be trying to cut on your own toe to try to get it? No, you go to a
Right.
podiatrist or you go to a gastroenterologist so they can do that. So let the person who deals with mental health and mental issues be the person to help you deal with the issue that you got, because that is a form of surgery. It's a mental surgery. Hey, let's dissect this. Let's get into it. Let's find out what is making you act this way, why, and what we can do to fix this. Because if it's left untreated, you guys, it leads to issues of violence, of self-harm,
Right.
depression, and suicide. So, Travis, one thing I wanted to talk with you tonight.
Yeah.
Tell me your own experiences with mental health. Let's start off with that.
You know, it's just basically I've had my own, personal battles with, mental health in general. I have, I'm saying bad anxiety, depression, things like that. But for the most part, it was just always, I never really, to me, a couple of years ago, I didn't identify it as a depression or bad anxiety and things like that. And as I got older and, I've, seen therapists and things like that, I've learned new things, so I kind of learned or tried to learn why I was reacting or feeling the way I was feeling. Because for the most part, people used to just receive it as like I'm the wild child and, like I was like angry all the time. And I'm like, why do people see me that way? Or why do I react to certain things a certain way. So that was always a battle with me. And especially, with the field that I work in, or entertainment, or even if outside of entertainment and personal life and things like that, it was always one of those things that people always made me feel like I wasn't either doing enough or I always need to change something about me, whether it's the way how I sound, like in my speech, whether it was what like I didn't fit in, they didn't know where I was black or white, or if I was black or white, or things like that. So they make me always want to have to feel like I have to change myself. And then what really triggered me is that what I was experiencing growing up, you know, for example, maybe not being masculine enough. You know what I'm saying? Especially the community that we're in, right? Maybe not being sexy enough, you know, and that's on a personal life. So then when I started pursuing entertainment in the different realms of entertainment, I realized I was falling into the same situations with, you need a six pack. Oh, they're not going to cast you for this. Oh, you need a macho up to get this role.
Right.
Or if I'm not dipping in to do it on stage, they're not going to book me in the club to do a performance. And that being said, is that I just relate that to entertainment because that's the field that I chose to pursue. Now, if I was a nurse, then I would relate it to it in the medical field, if that makes any sense. So,
That makes sense.
yeah.
No, so I mean, just like hearing you deal with it, it's first off, it's a lot. That's a lot, and that's you as one person dealing with that. And for me, depression is something that I've dealt with on and off throughout my life. Anxiety probably didn't hit me until maybe the last year, and I had no idea how crippling it was. So for you to deal with all of that, you're quite an exceptional person. You're quite strong. How did you manage to get through it, and what happened to make you decide that I'm going to get the help that I need?
So so I used to live in New York for the past 10 years, right? And you know, New York is the hustle and bustle is fast, it's that and the third. So
Right.
I started just feeling, you know, people go to New York to pursue either what fashion, music, or acting. And for a while, I was like, you know what? They're not gonna cast me on like mainstream stuff, right? So I just always I figured, let me just go to the web and see what I can make out of the web. That happened, and as I'm, you know, just hustling and, you know, chasing this dream, I started losing focus on what I was doing it for. You know, so I found myself, yes, working certain gigs and doing certain, you know, jobs, but then it was always like a disconnect, you know. And then I started feeling like, if I want to be a certain kind of artist, I am not really being honest with myself. So how can I tell stories, talk about certain things, and I'm not really being real with myself? So that really ate me up. So like, I'm 28 now. So when I was 25, I kind of like stopped doing like, and I didn't audition. I wasn't doing anything at all. I was just serving in a restaurant because
That's depression.
I was contemplating like, should I continue to do this? You know, I'm not, like, I want to look up to someone. I want to be relatable. So when I see people on TV or talking about certain things, I try to see if they're like, if I'm like relatable with them and things like that. And since there was a disconnect with myself, I ended up feeling disconnected with like my art. And then that's when I was like, well, let me just throw in the whole towel. And then I kind of honestly started recording music. And then that was just, it was like it was just something that I didn't have to see nobody. I was serving the restaurant and I would take a cab. I was serving Midtown, take a cab straight to Brooklyn by myself and record with the engineer and take a cab back home. So I wasn't seeing anybody. I kept myself away because I feel like, why would people want to be around me? Why am I going to be around these successful people if I don't got shit going on? You know, that's how I felt. I felt like I never like, it never is not enough. You know, I was like, damn, this person just did this. Well, I got to do this times 10. And when I do it that times 10, it's like I'm still at fucking at one.
I know that feeling, and I know they say, you know, comparison is the great robber of joy. So that did nothing but contribute to the depression that you were already feeling, the anxiety that you were already feeling. It was just like feeding the demons. So I completely
Yeah.
understand that. So when did you reach a point to
Yeah.
where I said, I need to speak to a therapist?
Okay. Well, so a
Or,
couple
or let me backtrack.
I'm not gonna
Didn't happen to make you say, I need to get professional help?
I will say this. When I was younger, I used to go to child therapy, right? As a child, right? And I remember them having me draw pictures. And the reason my mother put me into child therapy was because I was have like these break like temper tantrums and things like that. And I always remember they would have me in this office, right? It looks like a library, like making drawings. And I thought that I felt out of place drawing in front of a stranger. So that was as a child, probably around 10. Then when I was like 22, when I just graduated and was started doing what I was doing, I went to go see a therapist, right? But
Okay.
then again, I still felt insecure about telling people I saw our therapist.
Such a
So
stupid.
I found me a therapist in one of the richest neighborhoods in New York, Gramercy Park, right? Just to make me feel better about going to therapy. I laugh now because it's how I am. Just to make me feel better about therapy, I felt like if I have it in a place where, that it's just a rich area, which I'm not rich, I'm from the Bronx, it would just make the light of the situation. No, because I still felt a disconnect with the therapist, which led me quitting therapy. And I just kind of haven't been to a therapist since, just because it's one of those battles I feel a lot of people could connect to, is that I don't really believe if you really believe in how I feel. So then let
So,
me just stop going to therapy. So I just, ciao,
so you stopped
ciao.
going because you felt a disconnect with the therapist. Is it
With the
because
therapist,
were they not black, or like what
he
didn't you
was
relate to about the
black.
therapist?
I felt like, I guess I was probably expecting a response from the therapist, and as a young adult, I wasn't getting it, and I found myself lashing out at the therapist. I'm like, wait, I'm doing something completely wrong. I just expected, I guess, him to. It was very just what I was used to seeing, I guess, in media for therapy. They're very just, yeah, and
You
tell me
know,
why you feel that way, and that just made me just, oof,
the thing
like I
about it
want.
is, if that's his first time meeting you, he's initially trying to assess like where you are. So he's going to ask those basic questions. But then at the same time, it could be projecting on your end. But on his
Right.
end, like you said, if he's a lot of people, and I found this myself too, when it comes to people of color, they prefer a therapist of color, somebody who can relate to them on multiple levels, not just on a psychological, you trying to treat me, but you get the cultural nuances of why I feel this way or why I'm going through this.
Correct.
Because unfortunately, a person who isn't white isn't necessarily going to understand the trauma that racism can cause, being stressful, brain anxiety. Because, like James Baldwin said, to live in America and be relatively conscious as a black person is to be in a conscious rage. So you have to consider
Mm,
that when you're thinking about the
yeah.
therapy and the psychology and the psych stuff that we have to go through.
Right.
But flash
My
forward,
therapist, he was a person of color, and I think he was kind of gay. Maybe he was in the closet, but regardless of it, he was a
you
person of
feel the
color.
connection. Okay.
Yeah, he was a person of color. Yeah, it just wasn't, and I'm not gonna lie, it just, I haven't been to a therapist since, because he kind of, I don't want to blame it on him. I think I was going through a lot at that time, and I
Mm-hmm.
just felt like I was rebellious too. So I was like, you know what? I'd
You weren't
rather
ready.
just,
You weren't ready to heal. You weren't ready to heal through that way. Voice of Race said it's
yeah,
natural to want the therapist to fix the problem instantly. That is a natural inclination that people have. But you guys, let me get you to understand something. For somebody who has to work with people who have mental illness issues, it's not a quick fix. It's not going to be a quick fix. When you're going to seek therapy, you need to go into it realizing this is not a quick fix. It's not going to happen then and there. It's not going to happen probably the next day. It might not happen for the first 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10
right,
seconds, but it's a process. It's almost like going to the gym and working out. You said you want to look this way, you want to have this type of body, and it's a process. The longest journey begins with a single step. The first act you need to do is say, hey, I have a problem. Something's not right here, and I need to go seek some professional help. It's definitely a
right,
process. So please remember that and have some patience with your therapist and try to find a therapist that you feel like you'll be able to connect with. If having a therapist that looks like you and understands your culture is very important, put that down there. If you want a therapist who understands your sexuality or gender issues, put that down there. If you want a therapist who came from a background of they were from the hood and then they came up so they understand about the problem of classism, put that down, because on most offices that you go to, they will actually ask you, what are you looking for in a therapist? Because that's absolutely important, very important. So, Travis, now let's flash forward to suicide.
mm.
Let's talk about
Oof. Yeah, I mean, honestly, so how can I word this in a way that's straight to the point? So I had one of my best friends commit suicide back in last January. So I guess it was a little over a year. I'm bad with math. A little over a year. It was like the January of like
it.
COVID, like when things popped off with COVID. And I got the news, and it hit me. Even I guess even it hit me in a way that I didn't expect it, because number one, we're experiencing COVID in a sense. Do you see me?
Yeah, I
Is
just
it
see you.
good?
Yeah, it's great.
I could my So it just hit me in a way that boom, one of my closest friends committed, suicide. Okay, that hit me, and on top of that, dealing with COVID. On top of that, we all are, with no jobs and our family issues and our personal issues and
Yeah.
being stuck in the house and career, career issues. And then it was more so I went back to read the text, right? Because I've started putting timelines together of the situation. And for example, I'm sorry, she passed January 1st. She texted me 2 days before, because around that time she was in Florida. I will come into town to Florida because that's where my parents live, and for the holidays, and we will always come over. And so it was a scheduled visit. The fact that I got the information, the news, and I just one of those. I was sitting in the room crying, and I just like, let me go read through her text. Like, let me go look at old photos. Let me just look at old stuff. And I was like, she said when I said I wasn't going to Florida, she told me that, okay, buddy, I hope to see you soon. And it was just in a way that she never really worded something before. You know what I mean? And she was a person that was opposite from me. She wasn't like a loud, rambunctious kind of girl. She was really to herself, but she always battled with those issues. And she was someone that went to go seek help and, and went into treatment centers. And I thought she was good. She made it seem like she was good. We knew this for years about her. And right before she passed, her last job was working at a prevention line center, helping other individuals, in the time of crisis. And that's what just like threw me into a whirlwind. And it was just one of those things I always tell people is that I never been heartbroken until then.
Right.
Like I never knew what heartbroken to this day. And that just made me reevaluate my whole life into a point that it's just my shell, and let me just start talking to people, because clearly there's something needs to be done in a sense that people don't talk about. This is thing that her parents told me. Her parents started going to counseling, and it was more so that there's suicide prevents the people around them in a way that's indescribable. So and that's what I feel like. And also too is, people have, I think, a lot of like a misinterpretation about, I guess, suicide, and people like leaving notes and stuff like that. But the one fact that I know is that is a very low percentage that people leave a note or a goodbye note or email.
I have a note right here. The percentage currently, as of 2020, the percentage of people who actually leave suicide notes is actually like 24%. Yeah, that's what makes y'all understand. And you see in these movies that they left this note detailing what happened to all this. That's rare. That's not the norm. A lot of times it just happens, and people are left wondering what, when, how, why, and it's like a bomb goes off in their life. It's no detailed explanation. It was that honestly this person was sick, and I hate that happened to your friend. But what I've learned and what I found out from research that I've done is a lot of times people who are dealing with issues like that go into fields of social service and mental health to try to not so much as help other people as it is to try to find the help that they need under the guise of helping other people. I know when I decided to major in psychology, when I went to Georgia State, do research and stuff there, one of the things they asked me, they said, are you doing this because you are actually interested in the field, or are you doing this under the guise because you really need the help? And I was completely honest with them. I said, I need both.
Yeah.
I need to know how to save my life, and I need to know how to save somebody else's. And I'm really, really, truly sorry about your friend, because I tell people all the time, death is nothing to play about, and the life has been snuffed out. And unfortunately, she took her own life. And I'm praying for you, and I'm praying.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But the point, and then also there's definitely and even people that I know, out like personally in the industry is more so is like there's a lot of people who are battling with stuff like that, and it still surprises me on, you know, the people trust me with a lot of information, and that's why I want to continue, you know, bringing awareness and using, you know, what I do, and start conversations like this that are normally not talked about in like what I do. But I'm just like, it's so many broken people walking around here acting like, you know, and that's just something that I feel like needs to really be addressed in a sense, because but people feel uncomfortable. So it's like, how do we make people feel comfortable with being comfortable? It's just like, yeah.
Well, the way we make people comfortable with addressing stuff like this is creating spaces and conversations like this where it's okay to talk about this with no judgment,
Right.
no stigma, no repercussion. This is
Right.
something that you went through. You're dealing with suicide or suicide prevention is you lost a friend to it. That's really bad. Really, really bad. And so what we need to do is actually open our ears, open our minds, open our hearts and say, hey, it's okay not to be okay. And it's
Right.
not okay for me to try to punish you for not being okay. We need to change our language and stop saying stuff like, oh, you're letting this happen. You're surrendering your power when you get like this. People are entitled to feel however they need to feel as long as they need to feel it to get through it. And we need to give them the space and time to do that. Just because something to you isn't painful does not mean it's not painful to somebody else. Again, I always tell people this all the time. It's always somebody else's problem until it's your turn. Have some fucking empathy, y'all. Straight up. So here are some ways that you actually can prevent suicide prevention. The number one is, what suicide prevention is, make sure have them contact a hotline. If somebody take every suicide notification seriously, even if this is somebody joking, if they say, hey, I'm just feeling a certain type of way, number one thing to do is to take it seriously. You can give them numbers to different suicide prevention hotlines, or you can contact the police or the local emergency fire department, law enforcement, because they need help. Encourage your friend to talk to somebody all the time. Be a listening ear, but let your friend know that I'm not a therapist. Let me just be very clear about that, child. Friends are not therapists.
So not.
Friends are therapists.
So
Another thing is encourage them to talk to people outside their family. Your family, they love you. They're going to speak affirming words into you. They do care about you. They're going to tell you what you necessarily need to, that you want to hear. Not necessarily what you need to hear, but what you want to hear. Of course you're handsome. Of course you're beautiful. Of course you're amazing. Of course you're going to make it. But somebody outside of that who's going to be objective says, hey, you do have the possibility of becoming this. But until you deal with this, you're not going to be able to get to that level. Because Travis, I think you can understand myself too as a creative. When you depressed and you anxious and stuff's not going right, the creativity, it dries up.
very much so.
It dries
Very
up.
much so.
It completely drives up. Also, you know, if your friend or loved one is diagnosed with a mental illness, encourage them to not only be open to therapy, but be open to medication as well. Plain out and simple. Sometimes people have to be medicated, y'all. And you know, guys, I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit and be really open about myself. Growing up, my mother, she actually deals with bipolar depression. So I dealt with that all my life growing up, where some days she could not get out of bed. I was the oldest, so I had to take care of my brothers and sisters till my dad got home. And she would try to have me be like the person she came to for counseling, until I started getting older and be like, no, mom, I think you need your medicine recalibrated. No, mom, you need to talk to a professional. No, mom, it's not normal that you're feeling this way. What can we do to get you through this? And that's been my guiding light and stuff, that I don't want anybody to go through kind of what I went through with my mother, because for us, for so many years, for most of my life, it was, I can't understand why you acting like this, why you can't just snap out of it, until I got to college and I started taking the courses and I realized she can't help it. Sometimes, you guys, it's a chemical imbalance that this person has, and their brain is not producing enough chemicals to make them happy. Myself, you or somebody else has these nice little things called dopamine and GCBs and glutamates and all of that, and it fires like that. Oh, okay, we happy, we up and down like this, but our up and down is more like this. They're up and down because they're producing stuff like serotonin and stuff. It's very, that's what you get there. And medication pretty much levels it up. You know, we need to normalize people getting the help they need, however they need to get the help.
Right.
So let's be clear about that when it comes to suicide prevention. Also, here are some stats when it comes to suicide prevention. Apparently, the more you are marginalized, the more susceptible to suicide that you are. So when I say marginalized, being minority, that means anything other than white in the United States of America, you have an increase of suicide, and it's because of racism, systematic oppression. That all plays a context into it. And then when you context it further into sexuality and gender, men have more successful rates of suicide, and that's only because they choose more lethal ways. Men tend to use guns and knives and stuff to harm themselves. Women, on the other hand, they're not sure. Maybe it's because they fear the pain. They'll take like medication, or they'll take some kind of pill, or they'll do like a carbon monoxide thing, and they have a greater chance of being found in time and saved. And then when you push it further into marginalization, we talk about the LGBT community, which has the highest rates of suicide, period. And when you break it down even further from lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, the trans community has the highest rates of suicide. You guys, it's so I say all of this because we want to have our fun. We want to kick it. We want to kiki. We want to talk our shade. We want to have our parties. But are we doing the work to get the help that we need to survive in a world that fears and hates us?
That's the problem. I feel like I always go back to this. I'm like, man, fuck that. You gotta be real with yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's like kind of like a battle with I'm gonna battle with me. I don't got it all together. I'm not here to say that I have it all together. There's days when I think I'm like, yeah, bitch, you got this. And then something will happen and throw me off and I'm back. So it's still a day-to-day challenge with handling my emotions and things like that. But what I know for a fact is that for a while I would seek acceptance of other people throughout my early 20s. Now I'm at a point when I was like, you know what, I don't give a fuck, before. But now I'm really like, I don't give a fuck about what you think about me, because I'll be damned if I allow the people to make me crazier than what I already am. You feel me? On like something like that's just what it is. And I've seen people with great successes really do low things or feel very low, and it's just like one of those things that like
these people do the ugliest things. Right? You know what they say?
And it's like,
I get it. You don't understand it. It's kind of, but the thing about it is what we have to understand is that people are people, no matter what level they are, from the billionaire way down to the untouchable that's living in the sewer in India. People are people, and they're going to do what people do, and that's be beautifully flawed. You know what I'm saying? Nobody is completely evil, and nobody's completely good either, and not one single one of us has it all together. And that's the reality that we got to accept and stop trying to move and live through this notion of perfection and holding ourselves to this superhuman standard that none of us can live up to.
Right.
None of us. What the Bible say, none of us are perfect. No, not one. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And so, Travis, let me ask you a question. How, with dealing with everything you're dealing with your own mental health and dealing with loss of your friend, are you able to be like on reality television and deal with that too? Reality television is, I tell people all the time, and just knowing this from my own experience, it's not a place for anybody dealing with any mental health issue at all. I found myself in a project last year where I was in the worst space of my life.
I think was that you did the reality thing? You did a reality show, right? I think I seen like I'm actually surprised that you did something like that. I was surprised.
It was a that failed.
Well, and that's what it's back to reality television, is that it is a social experiment, right? Mm-hmm. And what I've learned that with reality TV, it's all like a facade, right? But reality TV started off as social experimenting, and it's a social experiment. That's how reality TV started off. So when my experience with it, granted, it wasn't as big of a scale as my certain colleagues who did bigger shows, right? But with the conversations I had with them, the formula, the rundown, the structure, and what you go through is the same exact thing. And and reality TV, I can't tell you the count. Like, I lost count on how many psych tests or personality tests I had to take for networks. And that's what I didn't know. I was like, they're making me feel crazy that I had to circle 1 to 5, like, if someone, looks at me the wrong way, or if someone chews with their mouth open. And that was kind of like, a mind fuck to me too, because you know these networks do have therapists and things like that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they do. So me doing reality TV, you know, it was very, it was I re I enjoyed doing it because at the time I thought it would make me, you know, it put me in front of people, right? Which it did. The downfall is like what came along with it, with people not liking you, people are commenting
Right,
you coming off a certain way, which I'm not blaming editing,
right.
but it's more so I gave people this to use. And I started trusting people, and then I'm like, this is not my real life. You know, I want to have a conversation with you, and then the next minute I'm like, had anxiety walking through a door because I didn't know what was outside of the door. Or I find myself
There's,
acting out because I'm uncomfortable and people just see me as drunk. No, I drank a lot doing reality TV because I was a 20-something-year-old. I mean, still a 28-year-old. But it will calm my nerves. You know, it just happens that, you know, the times I did flip out on those certain things, I had a drink in my hand because at that time, that's what I thought calmed my nerves down. And I was like, oh, hell
it's,
no.
it is interesting that you bring that up about, using alcohol. A lot of people self-medicate. They're using alcohol and drugs. And alcohol and drugs also can increase your risk of suicide rates. Actually, from what I've read, it can increase people who are alcoholics or abuse alcohol or use certain types of drugs have a 37% more likely chance of dying by suicide. And currently, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States of America, you guys. 10th leading cause. Um, in 2019, there were 47,511 Americans who died by suicide and 1.38 million suicide attempts.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Wow.
It's,
Wow. A few
and,
other stats I want to drop is the age adjusted rate for suicide is almost 14 people per 100,000 individuals. The rate of suicide is highest in middle-aged white men. Men die by suicide nearly 4 times as often as women. On average, there are 130 suicides per day. White males accounted for 70% of suicide deaths as of 2019, and firearms account for nearly 51% of all suicide deaths. So clearly, y'all, this is a pandemic. Like this is suicide is a
and
pandemic.
it's work, and
It's a pandemic.
and what I from what I hear and from what I've been told, it's worse. It's at its all time. I guess it's higher. Doing, you know, it's
COVID rates for, and here's another stat. COVID rates was actually COVID in 2020 rates for suicide actually heightened by 15%. And they do believe it's because people were
yep, and especially and
depressed.
it's
If you weren't a social person, you were by yourself, you know?
who taught it, and especially with like teenagers, like young adults. Like I was talking to a lot of parents, and I read like a lot of articles regarding to like younger human beings are identifying or saying they're depressed at an earlier stage than like
They
back in the
are.
day.
It was where depression rates were first identified, usually people in their early 20s. That was as of the late 90s. Now, children are being identified as early as 8 and 9 years old with clinical depression. So it's dropped by more than half in age. So they're dealing with stress earlier on. And because of all this, the age, like the normal, so for the first time in history, you guys, for the United States, just to be serious about how COVID and suicide and all this is affecting us. The average lifespan for an American was 78 years old. It is now 75. In just the course of a year and dealing with COVID and stuff like that, we've dropped by 3 years.
That's crazy. Well, they do say what like a lot of times stress is what kills you. Or
Stress
kills you
is
fast,
what
right?
stress. Suicide, being highly stressed, it can also increase your rate of suicide by 25%.
And that's crazy because I'll be stressed.
No,
That's
it's
why I be taking
got
shots of vodka, not just, but you know,
Well, we're not going to encourage the people to drink because
No,
I know
no,
from
no, no.
experience, people, a drunk man speaks a sober man's mind, and whatever's inside of you is going to come out. And it might come out at the wrong time. Like you said,
Time
that
and place.
you were on camera and dealing with it. I don't advise anybody to do any type of reality TV if they're dealing with a mental health issue at the time. Like for myself, last year, I was dealing with sexual. I was a victim of sexual assault. I'm sorry, let me say victim. I was a survivor of sexual assault, and I was filming at the time while I was dealing with that, and it was horrible. It was horrible.
And this is because I didn't really watch it, but did you show that on the show?
Oh no, that was edited out.
Okay, you see, because this is I'm bringing that up because you mentioned that and the fact that you showed it, right? Which is brave, but like because you know these the viewers that would chew anybody up that they didn't that they edited out whatever that's on production. But you see, for me, my experience is that when I did reality TV, I didn't really show a lot of myself or what I was going through because I was afraid of how it would come off like to the audience and how would the cast of the people I was working with, I didn't trust them like that with certain information. And then so that was a disconnect of me doing certain reality shows because that's why people just saw me a certain way because that only allowed people to see me in that light because I didn't trust the people that I was around, which had me think, why the hell was I doing it in the first place? Because my story was it's like you watch it, like what your story is, child. You like you were just there acting the fool. But it happens sometimes. Like it is what it is what it is. But it's read the room. read the room.
It's definitely a learning lesson. But my hope is so I see some of the comments. I'm gonna read some of the comments that came up.
Oh shit, we got comments.
The Honorable Angelina Nordstrom says struggling with thoughts or intent is as real as it gets when it comes to a big struggle. I've struggled with that for many years, even to this day. Some days are harder than others. Angelina, I'm very sorry to hear that, and I'm praying that you continue getting the help that you get. C. Taylor 225. I contemplated suicide when I was younger, but was afraid to go to hell because was taught suicide is the unforgivable sin. So, guys, thank you for saying that, C. Taylor, because I'm gonna talk about now my own suicide attempt that actually happened back in August of 2016. So it's been 5 years now, and pretty much what happened is, no, that was actually 2014. I'm sorry. So pretty much what happened is I had just moved back to Atlanta. I had been in New York for quite some time, and everybody knows that dating is hard for me. That's kind of the theme of my life, or what I talk about a lot of times. Dating is hard for me. But I met somebody that I really, really liked at the time, and as I liked him, I was nervous about liking him, and I told my best friend at the time about it. I said, best friend, you know, I really like such and such and such and such. And best friend said, hey, go ahead and pursue such and such. I'm here for you. I got you. I'm gonna be your Cyrano. For those of you who don't know who Cyrano is, he's kind of like a mouthpiece back in the medieval times that would hook guys up with girls.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't live back then.
Yeah, but he used to talk. So he was like, you know, I got you. I'm gonna tell you what to say and what to do. And I was like, okay, cool. Right. So this whole time he's talking to me, coaching me, telling me everything to say to the guy. And behind my back, he was actually talking to him and getting with him. And they ended up, and they ended up together. And the way I found out was at a party.
That's an ass whooping in my book. Ooh.
Yeah, we ran into at a party. Me and him, you know, I was like, "Hey, happy to see you and stuff." We talking back and forth, and you know, a good friend of mine, Rico Perret, walked up and asked best friend, said, "Hey, where is such and such?" And best friend was like, and then somebody else came and asked him, "Hey, where is such and such?" And I said, "Wait a minute, why do they keep asking you about such and such?" And he's just like, "Oh, I'm not gonna do this with you tonight, Michael." And it just clicked with me. I said, "Y'all like together? Like, what's going on?" And he was like, well, yeah, you know, what if this is something that can make me happy? I was like, why would you have me go through this? Why would you put me through this? Like, why? Why would you do this? And we got a huge argument. And I remember I told him, I was like, you know, you've been my best friend for 10 years, and you letting like a dude come in between us. I was like, what kind of shit is this? You know, but I was so distraught. He didn't care. And that had coincidentally been the worst year of my life. Moving back to Atlanta, I ended up getting a little trouble, lost a considerable amount of money out of my account. Someone very near and dear to me was dying. He was having seizures, and Yeah, he was dying, and I thought I was gonna lose him. Thank God I didn't. He's still alive to this day. But he
Oh,
knew I was dealing with all of that, and that was just kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I drove out of that place like a bat out of hell, y'all. And I was going down the highway, and I attempted to run my car into the wall, like the highway ramp. I don't know what stopped me, but like my foot hit. And like when I was thinking about it earlier today, when I was going to share this story, I said, "What did stop me from running my car into that wall?" And it's because I was raised Christian, and for me, I was raised that sin is that suicide is an unforgivable sin, like you said, a mortal sin, and you was going to hell. And I said to myself, I was like, you know what, the only devil I ever want to deal with is these two bitches. I don't want to deal with the real one. I said, so I'm just going. I broke down on the side of the road. My friend, I called her. She called the suicide prevention hotline. I managed to drive myself home. By the time I got home, my mom was there. I laid my head in her lap and I cried and cried and cried. She told my dad what was going on. Them suicide prevention people came in, talked with me. I was doing that. I was doing patient therapy. Really got me. I was, of course, therapist, 1 o'clock. I'm not going to lie, talking about it, getting the professional help that I need was great for me. I needed it. Because for me, being somebody who does like video work and stuff like that, I don't have very many people I can trust and confide in or talk to. And so to be able to talk to them and get all the stuff off my chest of what I was dealing with, how I felt was great. And you also have Rico Pruitt, who saved my life. He called me every single day. He checked on me every single day. Mike, how's it going? What's going on? What's good? What's this? And so that's why we're still very close to this day. And slowly but surely, I worked through it. And I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. It was to date probably one of the biggest betrayals I've ever felt. But people gonna stab you in the back when they don't care or when they're in pain themselves. And although I forgive said friend, we're not friends, and I'll never forget that. And I don't deal with treachery, and I don't encourage anybody else to deal with that too. I always tell people a friend on the fence is an enemy in waiting. Remember that. And there are plenty of don't try to lose a friend and get the fish off they plate. And that's all I say about that situation.
you know,
but
that's
yeah,
crazy. That is crazy.
It's very important. Professional helped me. It was great. I say this, I took medication for like 2 months to help regulate my mood and my emotions. It gave me I took it. I don't have to take medication or anything now. I don't deal with depression issues. My anxiety has greatly subsided. And that's just pretty much because I've been working on myself. And I did something that I like to use, the block button and the mute button and the delete button, to make my life as peaceful as I possibly can. And I know everybody doesn't have that option or choices to remove certain people out of their life, and they try to learn how to, which is why, again, I say,
but we don't. I mean, I think we can.
Some people don't. Like what if the person you live with, like, say this mom or your dad, is not physically abusing you, is verbally abusive to you, and you're like a kid, and
Oh, yeah.
So I want to give people, there are resources that you can actually find if you simply type in online. And this will help people who even can't afford therapy. You can type in affordable mental health, and they have a website that'll take you to multiple websites that you can find in whatever state that you're in to find like a affordable mental health clinic close to you, or you can call in.
Seriously.
The people there are in the apps that they have with psychologists on them that are maybe $10.99 a month to $25.99 a month. There are so many of them. I look today. Just type in therapists, like mental health therapists, that are very affordable that you can do. And they'll do like a plan where they'll give you like 3 sessions a month or 2 a month. And you guys can sit right there on your laptop or your iPad or your phone, and you can actually talk to the person and get the therapy that you need. And some of them are actual psychiatrists to where they'll get your insurance information. They're legit, and they'll be able to prescribe you medication that can be sent to you in the mail. So
maybe that's what I need. But I've always been, I'm not going to lie. I've always been, I'm one of those kind of guys that I'm like fuck medication. I'm one of those. I'm not going to front. Because I'm real big on documentaries, and the way these opioids or whatever they give you, these clinics, the way these medical pharmaceutical situations be going, I just be very sketchy with things like that,
But
and
the
how it was all
thing,
set up.
the thing about it is though, we can't conflate that though, because opioids and
Right.
antidepressants, antipsychotics are three different drugs. And
I
so
think, you see, but that's how like my head is like, because of media. See how the media could do things to us. It's like the way how they break down the medical, the pharmaceutical,
Mhm.
industry and stuff like that. It's just, again, I'm still a work in progress.
No, we all
Maybe my,
progress. I understand, but for me, like I
but
said, I just want to remove the stigma of people being afraid of the antidepressants and antipsychotics or whatnot, because a lot of cases people actually need that. Like I said, if your brain is not producing the chemical
right.
that it needs for you to feel certain emotions, you need that medication to make that happen. Someone like my, she doesn't produce serotonin. She has to take Prozac. She has to take it. It's not on there. It's
Yeah.
not a spirit. It's a physiological change that she doesn't have. We have to do that. And we have to take this in consideration, y'all. People are hurting. Stop judging people for getting the help that they need the way that they're getting it. Stop doing that. And I know for those of you that say, you
I
just
kind
got.
of feel like this is like a little, you should be my therapist.
Oh
I'm
no,
like, well,
listen,
damn, why didn't talk? No, I'm
I'm not.
joking. I'm joking.
I'm not therapy.
I'm making a light of
Right. No, I want to say that because I know
I'm
some
a
people that
jokester.
I can give you the connection.
And this is my thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing about it. But I really want to put that out there because that's very,
Right.
very important. I know somebody's like, oh, I don't want to date him. He taking Prozac or something like that. And I'm just like, girl, he's
Really?
no, he's letting you know that's a problem that he has, and he's doing something about it. You need to get with that instead of somebody who's ignoring the absolute truth. The way we prevent suicide, y'all, is by taking care of ourselves, by taking the necessary steps to say, hey, I have a problem. And if you're saying
Correct. And that's why. Yeah.
doesn't know they have a problem, talk to them about it. If you sense something is wrong, if your friend sent you a text message out the blue that says something like one of my good friends did one time, and I drove over the house in the middle of the night, she said, she texted me, she said, hey, are you up? I said, no, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, why? She was like, oh, I just wanted to tell you, thank you for being such a good friend. You've always been a great friend to me. And no matter what happens, I love you, Mike. I love you. I was like, oh, okay, love you too. And I laid my head down, and it was like a scene from Sex and the City. And I was like,
but you see, like moments, moments like
I
that are good.
Yeah. And I said, what's wrong with you?
Moments like yeah.
And she told me how she was feeling and what she was feeling. And I waited, and I called the hotline, waited till they got over there, let them talk to her. I sat there and stayed with her for 2 days till her mom came in town. And then she stayed with her for a few weeks till she got better, because that was important to me, because, oh my God, what if I had not read into that?
And listen, man.
What if I had not? And I understand, but let me tell you something.
Real.
Let me tell you something, Travis. Forgive yourself. You had no control over that situation. You had no way of anticipating that was going to happen. That was not your fault, and you did nothing wrong. You did nothing wrong. Forgive yourself.
Mm.
Allow yourself that space.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to allow yourself that space.
It comes with the territory, I guess, right? As people say.
Listen, you're human. We're not divine. We're not God. We don't know what's going to happen. We can't anticipate the need of every single person around us. All we can do is be open to when said friend or family member comes and says, hey, Travis, I'm going through something. Can we talk? And then you take from your wisdom, okay, well, this talk is above me, above what I can do. Girl, let's go down to the clinic and have a conversation with somebody.
You feel, like, right. That's why I've always been, I'm just huge on like having conversations. I'm not a public kind of person. I like usually things like this. I do a lot, but like in intimate, like, because to me, I'm real big on like, I always have believed that a conversation could change someone's life. Take it how you want it. I'm gonna just leave it as that. And I'm real big on self-care. You feel me? So like, I'm all about, my thing is that people I'm not an advocate of anything. That's giving me, I don't like title stuff like that. I like to start conversations. I like to speak about things that I go through, know that other people go through. And also I'm one of the biggest things I'm fucking so strong hung about is like self-care and being a better you. You feel me? Whatever that means to you. Because every day I was like, you know, and it's not just looks. It's not looks at all, honestly. It's not like, child, I'll be out 3 weeks without a haircut. I don't care. Because more so, like, I know that I'm just working on something inside. And I know that it's going to be, you know, a long journey, but that's life, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Listen, guys, if you like the content that you've been watching, please make sure you purchase a badge. The proceeds from tonight will be going to a suicide prevention organization of my choice here in Atlanta. The badges are like 99 cents or $1.99. The money goes directly to us, and I'm gonna be transferring it over to the organization and the money with a little bit of my own money to kind of like perk it up. Thank you to
I just bought a badge.
Yes, you just bought a bag. Oh, okay, cool. And then you guys, I want to leave number 2 for suicide prevention to help. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline hours, they're available 24 hours. They come in English, Spanish, all the languages, and you can call them at 1-800-273-8255. Again, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. You guys, if you need help, please tell somebody. Please. I beg of you. Your life is so important. So important. Anytime somebody leaves this world is left differently. Don't ever minimize yourself for any reason or you feel like the world is better off without you. No, the world is better because you in it, because you walked in it. You were here. You are here. Enjoy this time. Enjoy this time. Travis, thank you so much for being willing to have this conversation with me and being so vulnerable about not just suicide prevention, but anxiety and depression and doubt and just being an amazing person. You're a really great guy. Every time it's a good time. Every time I've been in your presence, you've been an amazing person. And I know better than anybody not to take what I see on reality TV series. It's a manipulated snapshot of anybody's life, and they can be made to look however they need to look for whatever rating the show needs. So I encourage people to
I appreciate it. This is something that I wanted to do and keep up the work.
Thank you.
And y'all know what time it is, y'all. Stay poppin', stay lit. Y'all already know what it is.
Amen, amen. You guys will be back on Monday with Julian Lark, and we will be doing branding 101. Julian's going to tell you how to have a real brand because everybody don't got one. He's going to show you how you need to be doing it, how you need to take it seriously. You can't say you're a brand if you're not doing the things that brands do. And then on Tuesday, I will have another very special episode where myself and Lacey Dahl will be talking about our stories of being survivors of sexual assault and rape. So tune in for that. Next week is going to be pretty lit. I'm looking forward to it.
You better keep on going with all these social issues and causes. I'm here for it.
All right, we got to. I'm trying to make the world a little bit better than I found it, and that's my goal. All right?
Time to switch up the game. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, buddy. I love you. Have a great night, okay? Be safe. You guys, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's in my link tree in my bio. You can catch up on all the past episodes, okay? Oh, thank y'all so much. I love y'all for watching, and thank you for your continued support. Be blessed. God bless. I love you. Your life matters. One more time, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. Good night, y'all.